Hello, I'm Todd. Welcome to ResearchPod. While the COVID-19 pandemic presented the world's governments and health organisations with a vaccination challenge on a scale never experienced before, the study of messenger RNA, mRNA for short, in fact began some 60 years ago. During this time, Katalin Karikó's 40 years of research into mRNA proved essential in ensuring the production and distribution of affordable vaccines across the globe. However, this was by no means an easy ride. Born in 1955 in rural Hungary, Katalin Karikó battled critics and scepticism for her research into mRNA for over 30 years, before its role in the COVID-19 vaccination programme gained her recognition and, in 2023, a Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. After her move to the United States in 1985, Karikó was labelled by colleagues as that crazy mRNA lady, and her team head at Temple University even attempted to have Karikó deported to stop her taking a job at Johns Hopkins University. In this interview with our sister publication, Research Outreach, Karikó tells us why she loves biochemistry, what it's like to win a Nobel Prize, and how she would advise young scientists today.
I grew up in a small town, so nobody was biochemist around me, but I was just like every kid, wandering around in the nature and was interested to see things and understand. And I had great teachers. So eventually I was accepted at the university, and the university, how I ended up biochemistry by chance, just that this was the only opening I could work there. It's not that I have a visionary or special talents, super memory. No, none of these. Just I was curious, and then I put my time in. And every time, whatever opportunity was given to me, then I tried to make the best out of it. That's how it was, how I ended up biochemistry and all of this other mRNA research. I started to work with messenger RNA in 1989 when I started to work at University of Pennsylvania. And I was already working for almost 10 years when I met Drew Weissman at the Xerox machine. At that time, we copied articles. If we wanted to read, we had to copy it. And that's what we met and started to chat. And then he was interested to develop HIV vaccine, therapeutic or prophylactic. And I was telling him that I am working with mRNA and what I can do. And that's how it started. So it is important for researchers or colleagues, any organization to meet each other and talk to each other what they are doing. And he wanted to test whether messenger RNA would be good for vaccine. And that's how it started. And it was a great advantage. He used a very special cell type, human cell type. And we realized that when we delivered messenger RNA, that it responded with inflammation. And nobody understood what is all about, why it is inflammatory. And we just were curious to understand. That's how we discovered that we can make the RNA non-inflammatory. So everything was just a curiosity. We didn't set up a goal that we will make a non-immunogenic mRNA. We didn't even know that such exists. But that's science all about. You never know what you are investigating something. You don't know whether it is possible or not, but you believe in something and you keep trying and you fail a lot of times, but this is part of the work.
Is that sort of general attitude that you take towards teaching, that open curiosity?
Yeah, I think that's how it is important. Let the child or the young one be curious, and you have to have them to show them how to find answer for their questions and present them even more challenging things, and then they can get engaged. And I also find it very important to do with their own hands, to experiment. It can be a simple thing, just pick up leaves from a tree and then just look against the sun and see things in it and understand.
That's quite a philosophical way of engaging with the world around you. Is that also something that you're interested in, the philosophical side to science?
Yes, it interests me that many things, why things are that way as we can experience. I enjoy. So this is also, I emphasize every time, I enjoy the work, and that's important. If you enjoy your work, you will be good because you are doing even more work and then get more experience.
Would you be able to tell me a little bit about what it was like to win the Nobel Prize?
I have to mention, Todd, that I have, for 40 years I worked, I never get any award, not even a accepted grant or some money, for my research. I was very fine with that. I did not needed any university authority to tap my shoulder that I am doing good thing. I knew it. I don't even explain to you when 3, 4 years ago I got the first award. It's like, for days I could not comprehend that. Oh my God, I just went around in the house, and saying that. And of course, people say, oh, every scientist dreaming about getting the Nobel Prize. I was never one of them. You never set up a goal to get the prize because this is other people's decision. And my mantra and philosophy was that I always focus and put goals that I can do something about. It's not other people's decision. And of course, it is a greatest honor. And I am sure that some people were happier than me that I received the award. But for me, those letters I received from people who were grateful is more touching for me to know that I was part of a process that helped others, and that feeling was so much more valuable for me.
Are there any downsides to scientific awards?
At the beginning, I was wondering what I should say when, they had a microphone in front of me. And, in 40 years in a laboratory, you don't have to give interviews, especially if you are a scientist who is constantly demoted and nobody really from outside world. But I found that when a prize is given, it is spotlight on the scientist and the science also, and it is important. And I try to find, what should I talk about? And one was realizing that the public understanding of what a scientist is doing is important, and we neglected that part. And so every time when I gave an interview together with reporters, together we need to educate the public. And I also thought that it is important for the upcoming generation to realize that science is an exciting thing. It is passion and it is solving problems, and my work shouldn't portray that I am suffering or is something. I went to work the weekend because I wanted to be there, because I had some idea that I want to try out, and I had fun. You could ask my husband, whenever I went, he thought that I am having just fun there because I was happy. And even I did not get those funding and other things, but I keep trying, and meanwhile I learn, and that's what's important. You are learning and enjoying and try to find solution. And then, of course, many technical problem I had to solve in the bench. I was working at the bench when I was 58 years old. Every experiment I did with my own hands. But I enjoyed that. I didn't think that is a lower level of job if you are working at the bench. Many ideas I get to my head. Oh, yeah, I can do this way or that way. So it is fun. That's what finally, I found that what I should say when I receive an award. And I always acknowledge all of the fellow scientists' work because they single me out. But this research is a team sport. You need everybody's contribution. Those who were not with us anymore because they died, but they did their research and published, and we learned from that. And all of the colleagues working with company or at academic institution, they all contributed. And I just felt that I am happy that I'm one of that person. And I myself never crave recognition, that they would say my name somewhere. I was fine with it, that I was not known.
Like you said, science is like a long haul, isn't it, really? Like working on something 40 plus years, you're not guaranteed to have solid results from that by the end of it. And I was just wondering, over that 40 years, how has the field changed? Have you noticed things visually changing around you or in terms of theories?
When I started to work in '89, we were happy that we could generate a messenger RNA, and when we put in cells, that we could detect that messenger RNA translated to a protein. And where are we now? 30 years later, is more than 250 clinical trial is ongoing where messenger RNA is used, and many of them for different vaccination for against viruses, bacteria, or parasites, and there are treatment or as a vaccine used for treating cancer patients. There are gene therapies ongoing. So you can see that money went in, of course, and attention was on the mRNA. So the major advantage, because making mRNAs very quickly can be done and very cheap. And so even if the final product is a protein, screening and doing everything is on mRNA, messenger RNA level is much faster and make it the product cheaper. But eventually, if the mRNA is delivered to the body, the patient will generate the product, which has the biological activity, the drug, and that is much better and much cheaper. So that many of the drug, which is right now is unaffordable as a protein, as we deliver messenger RNA level, it will be affordable for many, many people. So this is also important for me, that it is not $1 million therapy.
Is that something central to a lot of your research, is actually being able to use it effectively rather than work on something that's too expensive to actually use?
Yes, of course. It is, for me, it was important. Actually, we didn't even want it to patent it because we said we want everybody to use it. But then they said that nobody will use it, nobody will test because, when they do the clinical trial and all of this investment, and then there is not a patent to protect that investment, if it turns out good or way, then nobody will start. Then we have to file a patent. Because we are naive. All scientists want to create something that helps people. But we have to understand that all of these clinical trial others need investment. And those who are risking their money, because many of these ideas and therapies not work out well and they lose the money. But you need the private money to develop different products.
Talking about investing in science, have you found it's been difficult to deal with people that are skeptical of certain ideas throughout your career?
I have to say that scientists are also always skeptical. They don't believe and they want to prove it. And that's why they do the next experiment. And the advancement also in science is had by skeptic scientists who point out shortages. And then the other scientists try to prove this way or that way. So this is how it progresses the science. And of course, there are people that who has venture capitalists can invest and they do understand that is risking money, and then it is no guarantee, because if it would be so sure, then already would have been done. So I think it's natural that how they act and do things. But here, is in the United States more likely that people are giving money. In Europe and is a little bit different. Coming to the United States, I was surprised that people are giving out, just even as charity, the alma mater, their schools, and even those people had children. At that point, in Hungary, when we left in 1985, if somebody had money, they always give only to their children, not to the community.
Was it quite a shock when you moved to the US? Did it take a while to adjust?
Yes, of course, you can imagine there were no credit card, no telephone, nothing, and we didn't know anybody in this country. Other people had, their teachers, their classmates, their parents, relatives, and we had nobody. And the system coming from a communist Hungary. And I remember on the first day when I went to work, they said that you have to select a bank. I said, why do I need a bank? I never had a bank. And they said, yeah, but how did you get your salary? I said, oh, it was in an envelope, all of coins, everything was there. Everything was different. Today, it is not as much difference between, let's say, somebody's coming from Hungary, but in 1985, coming here, everything was a shock for us, culturally, and of course, because that we were just not knowing anybody, and then we just have to do to survive.
Going back to sort of skepticism, I was just wondering what it was like to communicate, particularly ideas around COVID, for example. I was just wondering if you had to adapt your strategies.
Yes, of course, because realizing that for a product which is FDA approved is not meaning that it is accepted by the public. We need the public understanding and then acceptance by the public that a drug was developed. And somebody had to explain, that messenger RNA, which is in this vaccine, is not something that we discovered, nature discovered. Actually, I had to explain that the virus itself has mRNA, messenger RNA, but it had many, many other genes which can make you sick. And we just selected one little piece of it, which can help to educate your immune system to recognize when you get infected. But, the complexity, all of this biology of how vaccine works, for example, the immune system is changing so much. Even if what I learned at the university, how our immune system recognized, let's say, a virus, it changed. I learned through how today we understand this. We had to find words somehow to explain to the public all of these things and use simple words. But listen, during the COVID, people learn messenger RNA. They were, oh, did you get PCR test? They can learn. They can get some ideas what it is. And so we have to have them. That's what I realized, that we have not done enough. And there is a job for us to educate the public and better understanding. They feared because many people did not understand that what it is, what is happening. And, scary things were surfaced on the social media, that it will change your genome, and 2 years from now everybody drops dead, and you never have children, and so on. And I don't know why people are doing this, but according to the US, it was most of these were people who were selling something, another product, and they wanted the public to buy that thing from them. That's what I learned. Making profit, on people who had limited understanding was even 100 years ago, actually, in England, when it turned out that, X-ray is going through the clothes. That's what they take part of the truth. So they didn't say that, the flesh also, and there will be bone. No, they said that through clothes. And then in England, they start to protest against that X-ray should not be put in the binocular at the theaters because people will see through your clothes and they see you're naked. And then some companies started to sell X-ray resistant underwears. People are making money on people. And you can read the story about X-ray in the Nobel Prize site, that this is what happened. People are making money on these things and made people fearful. And then they would buy those things.
I was just wondering whether there's any advice you might give to any up-and-coming scientists as sort of a general piece of guiding advice to get into biochemistry or original research.
For the next generation, I could tell them that the most important thing, they have to enjoy what they are doing. So maybe science and research is not for them. Maybe, if they like to follow instruction, they might be in the military or somewhere else, or if they want to make money, the money doesn't really make you happy. This fulfillment feeling that you did something, even you won't be able to see the outcome, you have to think about that, but one day somebody will have. So that's what science is, and to be scientist is exciting. Yeah. So my daughter was, the rower who, rowing going backwards, and I used to tell her that it is like science, we don't see the finish line, and we don't even know that we are going to the right direction, but, we are pulling like they are doing. The young one, I also would say that what I found important is the physical and mental health. They won't be able to proceed unless they physically and mentally healthy. So, I was always exercising. I just told you this morning I swim 2 kilometers. Other time, I run 6 kilometers, and even I run the marathon just to test out myself whether I can last for 42 kilometers. And I made it 4 hours, 30 minutes, so anybody can beat my time. And I was like 45 years old. You don't have to run that much because, again, this running is something like, you don't happen that you get up in the morning, today I run a marathon. No, the marathon was in November, and in March, I already started to increase my distance and so on. So you have to prepare, just like science. Preparation is important to reach your goal. So physically, if you don't like to run, then you do something else, but you have to take care of your body. And the mental health, I wrote a book where I mentioned many things, that how I was helped by understanding how to handle stress. Because at age 16, I read the book from János Scheyer, who was a Hungarian who immigrated to Canada. And he coined the word stress. And then he described that the stress can kill somebody, but not the stress itself, but how the person perceives. He also mentioned that you need stress, positive one, expectation, excitement. All of this is also stress, but it is positive, and you have to learn the negative stress to convert to positive one, and then you have to practice this. This is important mantra, but also It was already Marcus Aurelius also described that you have to focus on what you can change, what you can have an effect. And that's what he was saying also. So not to compare yourself to others, because you always conclude that the others are not doing as hard work like you are doing, but they are advancing and they are the favorite of PI and so on. And then they get more salary and whatnot. But in that point already, you have to recognize you already took away your attention, what you can change. And if you focus on what you can change, then you can have fun. So many things you can do and learn. The stress, what Shaya described, is coming from that you always wanted somebody else to do something. Critics of your paper, or those people deciding for a grant, or your children, your wife, your spouse, your neighbor should be quiet. You want everybody else to do something, and they are not doing. And that's what the frustration is coming. And what he said, that you have to always think what I should do so those things would happen. So they would accept my grant or my paper and other. I have to do more work. Because if you just blame others, you cannot do anything about. It is their fault. And he is saying that you have to improve yourself, work harder, and so on. So that's what it is important. You have to find a happy life and enjoy what you are doing, and do not worry about. If I would worry about all of these people who are promoted around me and get more salary, and I was there all weekends, and because I was focusing on my work, and I was demoted, so on. And so if I would pay attention that, oh, what I'm doing is not worthy, then I would change. But I could see the progress. And that's what I also suggest to those who are doing research. And so if you don't see the progress and you are repeating, then you should stop and change. But I could see myself the progress. And I enjoy, because it was a success there at the bench. Other people couldn't see it, and they talked behind me, and I didn't care. And that's also very important. That so sometimes, some person's superiority who I respected said bad thing about me in face. And then I think about, whether this is any good advice in it. And when it was not just a mean comment, then I put down the person from the pedestal. So I did not respect it anymore, because it could destroy you. So don't let this happen. And the other thing, what I would tell the young one, they have to believe themselves and believe that with hard work, they can achieve their goals. That's what's important, because you can lose your sight and you could feel that, you are not good enough or something. Can you imagine? I am coming from a small town, lived with a whole family in one room and no running water, nothing. And then coming to an Ivy League school here, everybody's perfect English. I started to learn English when I was 18. So I have accent, and my English is not correct many times. So, but if I wouldn't believe in myself that, oh, maybe I can think about something that all of these smart people here won't think, I would lower the bar and would think about that, okay, maybe I can assist them or help them, but I cannot get on their level or something. So that's what I would say to the young one. Just have fun, enjoy life, be healthy, and handle the stress, and don't take seriously all of these stupid thing around you or people are talking about. One important thing was also what I learned from Shaya is that never carry grudge against anybody, because it will poison you and other person won't even remember. So forget it and move on. And if something bothers you or something you shouldn't, in the past, you shouldn't close it down and move on. You have to think of what you have, what you can work, and what you can do. Because if you think always about what you don't have and you don't have any effect on it, you will be so bitter. So that's my long advice.
No,
To
no,
the young one.
yeah, like you said, if you just highlight all the things that aren't happening rather than the things that actually are happening around you, then it's quite a negative way of viewing the world. Have you
Yeah.
found with students the technology and social media is sort of the classic example of having to compare yourself to other people? Have you found that that's been a big influence in some of the people that you teach?
Yeah, I have to say also it's very difficult to compete with the media, because some award ceremony was there, for a whole week, and we had to present to scientists as well as high school students. And that when 300 students with their telephone are in the audience, you have to say something that they will not look at and sending another message to somebody sitting next to them and try to compete with that. And that all of these presentations there, everybody's so wonderful, beautiful. I presented in my book also as I am. I am not a super talent. I am just a person that who is working and putting time in and get fun and enjoying and no glamour there. Although I made the glamour magazine cover, my daughter insisted that, Mom, you have to take that. You are a glamour woman and you have to show that you don't need big nails and makeup and something, that you can be glamorous and you have to take that job. And I also say to those who already have children and, in science field or researcher or any other profession, that I have a daughter and I didn't overdote it her. I gave her responsibility just like my parents gave me, and I was proud that I could do it and they can do, and they can learn how to be independent. And so I encourage also that you don't have to choose between having a family and having a professional life, because I could do both. And my daughter turned out, she's became a 2 times Olympic champion. She finished this Ivy League school and get master degree. She get an MBA also. So that she did study, and just because child seeing the parent how they act rather than what they tell them, you can tell them, oh, do your homework, and you are just watching TV constantly, they could see it. So that's also a message for the little bit older students.